less copy is kind of a trend as well. So websites used to be paragraphs and paragraphs, but the trend is going to less is more, especially because people's attention span is like shorter and shorter. You want that big call to action, that big headline that entices people.
Hey, my feel good friend, and welcome to the Feel Good Social podcast. I'm your host, Kinsey, and today's guest was so fun. Her name is RuthAnn, and she is the owner of Our Art Space, and she helps people up-level their DIY brands so that they can step into their next level of growth in their business. And I was totally giddy the entire conversation because I love talking about branding and websites for sure. And RuthAnn not only dishes up super awesome tips when it comes to making your brand strategic and beautiful at the same time, how to know if you're ready for a rebrand or an up level and all that jazz. But we also get into a super awesome conversation around sales and selling in a way that is super low pressure and feels good. Also, I just want to throw it out there, RuthAnn is actually dishing up a super awesome free offer for 3 of our Feel Good Social podcast listeners. She tells us all about it at the end of this episode, at the end of our conversation. So you definitely want to listen all the way through to the end so that you might be able to snag one of these amazing offers that RuthAnn is giving out. I'm not going to tell you what it is. You just have to listen to the episode, but it is super awesome. Like, I kind of want to go do it myself. Okay, I hope you enjoy this conversation. Let's go ahead and dive right in. Hey friend, and welcome to the Feel Good Social podcast. I'm your host, Kinsey, and I'm here to help you market your business in a genuine way that works without wasting your precious time. On this show, we chat about social media strategy and mindset tips with a focus on, you guessed it, feeling good. So sit back, relax, and enjoy some genuine conversation for the good of your biz. Hi, RuthAnn. Thank you so much for coming on the Feel Good Social podcast, lady. I'm so excited to have you on the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Kinsey. I'm so excited to talk with you.
Yes. Oh man, you guys, and this has been a long time coming. RuthAnn filled out our podcast intake form of 2 years ago-ish, and thankfully we have finally gotten her on here. So I'm so excited to chat. But before we dive into branding and websites and all that good stuff, I always like to start out these interviews by asking you a little bit about you. Who are you? What do you do? And who do you serve?
Yes, my name is RuthAnn, as you know. I am a brand and website designer, and I help women who have outgrown their DIY brand really elevate and up-level their online presence with a brand and website that's really aligned with their vision, vibe, and values, so they can really exponentially grow their business and make a lot of money feeling good about it.
Oh, I love it. You guys know that we're going to be geeking out in today's episode because I love me some branding. But before we do get into that, I would just love to know a little bit about you and how you got into the entrepreneur space, doing what you do. What did that journey look like for you?
Well, so it started back in like 2015. I was newly married and I was working in a printing company. And I was getting all of these side jobs because the printing company was not fulfilling me creatively. I am a creative person deep in my bones, and I just needed an outlet that I was doing something really creative and like challenging me and stuff. And so I was getting all of these side jobs on top of my full-time job of like, I was a photographer at a photography studio. I was doing weddings and stuff. And then I was a painting party instructor. I was just all these random like creative things because I was looking for that outlet that could feed my creativity. And I was really into blogs then. And that's when blogging was like huge. It was like 2015, 2016, even before that. But I came onto the scene a little bit later, I guess. But I was reading this blog with this girl who was a brand and website designer, and she was working from home, making good money. And I was like, I think I can do this. And, you know, I don't have an entrepreneurial background. I mean, I guess I sort of do. I remember drawing, this is funny, but I was drawing like the Lion King cartoon characters, like when I was little, and I would take these little drawings of the Lion King characters and take them door to door and sell them for like 25 cents a picture. So I guess I like have a little bit of entrepreneurialness in me, but I guess I just wanted a way to have a business where it was like a life first approach. I didn't want to have a business that ran my life, that it was like everything I thought about. I really wanted to find a way to do it like my own way, I guess. And so I started my business on the side to my day job, and I did that for about 3 years. And then I was able to go full time in 2019. And since then I have grown my family, and I've really done it how I wanted to do it, which is like have my business there ebbing and flowing with me as I live my life.
Oh my God. I was like freaking out, you guys, over the Lion King drawings. That is so cute. What an adorable little, like, something to throw into your brand story and messaging and stuff like that. You know, I love when we can like reflect back on things that have happened to us in our lives and like how that's carried over into the person we are today and stuff like that.
Yes. So and cute. Nowadays I think like, oh my gosh, my daughter would be going door to door, like down the street. It's just so funny how like times have changed. But
you're like, wait, my mom let me do that?
I know. That's what I think about. It was a different time back then.
Oh my gosh. So cool. And I love that. And I love, you know what else too, I totally related to with what you said is like, you know, you've always been a creative person, and often creativity takes so many different forms in our life and our adventures, and we want to try this out and then we want to try that out and stuff. And I feel like it's hard sometimes for people to decide which direction they want to take, right?
Yes.
I have trouble with that. Definitely multi-passionate. And also, I feel like sometimes people get down on themselves when they're like, well, I've dabbled a little here, I've dabbled a little there. But I think it's so great when we can embrace that and realize all these different things that we have done and experienced and tried throughout our entire lives come together to create the person who we are now and the expertise that we have now. You know, have you found that to be true too?
100%. And I think that's why it took me so long to go full time, is because I am multi-passionate. I was doing all the things because I have a photography background. I was doing brand photography, websites, logo design. I was doing like all the things. And I feel like I did make all the mistakes along the way, everything that you're quote unquote not supposed to do. I like did all of those things, but I do think it's helped me become a better entrepreneur. Like, I just feel like I empathize so much with other people and their stories and my clients. And so I feel like it does definitely prepare you for what you are meant to do. And it helps you along the way as you are like pivoting and growing and really like honing in on what you're really good at. Because when you do all those different things, you're like, oh, I really didn't like doing that so much. So let's like cut that out of my services. Let's just focus on this. And I just think that the natural progression of an entrepreneur is like, you know, you're trying all the things and then you really get specific and hone in.
Yes. And I'm over here laughing and kind of raising my hand, guys, because before we hit record, RuthAnn, we're talking about how like I'm quote unquote trying to somewhat pivot, you know, and I don't know if it's like a full on pivot, but it's just like not as much focusing on social media tech stuff and whatnot and the ever changing stuff, but more so focusing on that like big picture. Who are you as a business, which I love, which is why I'm so excited about this conversation. I also think it's interesting. Okay, so as a branding person who is multi-passionate and has done lots of different things, do you feel like it's easier for you to work with multi-passionate people and like try to help them bring all these different aspects of their personality and creativity together just because you've experienced that? I worked with an artist recently and she was like, I do painting, I do pottery, I do, you know, all this different stuff. I don't know how to make my website feel like cohesive. And I just was able to look at her and be like, it's okay that you do all these different things. And I see the through line for you. And we made a website that really made sense for her. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So, anyway, is this making sense what I'm saying?
Yes.
I don't know if there's a question in there or not.
Well, I have several different things we can talk about in what you just said, but I think having someone who's multi-passionate, yes, as my job as a website designer is to make your website the most effective it can be, to make people not make people, but like to invite people into the experience of who you are, who your brand is about, and to make it cohesive. That is definitely the goal. So I do feel like when clients come to me and they have a million different services, like there's a way to make it really like strategic and effective. So it's like highlighting one service. It's maybe putting other services in the footer. Maybe it's taking out a lot of your services on the website altogether and having those as like behind the scenes offers. So there's definitely ways to do it if you are multi-passionate. But I think, we were talking a little bit about pivoting. I myself have like repositioned myself to be focusing on rebranding. So it's working with a more established entrepreneur who has already been in business. And that kind of helps narrow in my client on what she already knows what she's doing. She knows who she's talking to. She knows what she's offering. So for me, I did used to work with everybody, when they were just getting started. And that is harder because you do have to rein people in. You have to coach them a lot, honestly, because you're like from an outside perspective looking at this might not all jive together. There's a lot more coaching involved when you're working with a new entrepreneur. And so when I'm focusing now on rebranding, it is more of the person who's more focused. So I don't do as much coaching for them because they're already further along enough and I don't like need to coach them as much. I hope that answered the question.
Oh, yeah. I love it. And I don't even know if there was a question in there that I asked. So that's perfect. But yeah, I think it's so cool that you have like honed in on, okay, rebranding, and you're embracing that term. You're not trying to call it something else. And you have that angle and you know exactly who your ideal customers are and where they're at in their journey. And you're so right. I've actually worked with a few people on branding projects for sure at this point. Love them all. And they were somewhat rebranding projects because they had already been established for a little bit and all that different stuff. And I just didn't even really think of it as that angle kind of thing. So do you feel like when you talk to your ideal customers, they like immediately get it and they're like, yes, this is for me. This is what I need?
Yes, because normally when we're talking about it, it's like, tell me, in the questionnaire they fill out, it's like, tell me, where are you at in your business? Like, what do you struggle with the most? And normally getting to the root of those things kind of show me. And then when we're on a discovery call talking through things, they're like, I just really need an up level. I hear that a lot. That's like kind of a line that goes through most of our conversations. It's like, I just need an up level. I want to look more sophisticated. I want to look like a premium service. I get that a lot. So it's like, pinpointing these things that my ideal client wants and helping them see that this is totally possible with, making sure your visuals align with the vibe you're wanting to go for. And so that's, definitely what I help them with is like the visual side of things.
Yeah, I love that. So for our listeners who are listening to this right now, like, oh, maybe it's time for me to like let go of my DIY brand of sorts. What are some of those things that happen quite often when people are ready for that?
When they're ready for a rebrand, I think, they're noticing that they're not getting the right clients to come in the door. Like people are inquiring who are not a good fit. That's kind of a sign that you might need to like rebrand your visuals. And then another thing is like when you want to raise your prices, but you don't look like you can raise your prices, if that makes sense. Like maybe your brand just looks a little hodgepodge and it doesn't look like, oh, wow, she's charging that much, that kind of thing. So it's just like helping them look like they can charge a lot of money, and they normally do, helping them with that too.
For sure. I think that when we're just starting out, it's kind of important sometimes to like going back to that multi-passion thing, right? Like get a feel for different things, just kind of go in messy, figure out who are you, who are your ideal clients, like what do you want to create, turn this business into, And then there comes a point exactly where you outgrow that and you're ready to start charging more. You feel confident in your expertise, like all this jazz. And a facelift is needed sometimes with that.
Totally. And I absolutely agree. When you're just starting out, I do agree that you DIY things, that you kind of get messy, that you just do it yourself, figure out, your tone of voice, like how you like to market, how you like to show up, who you like to work with. Doing all those things in the beginning on your own before you hire someone, I think is like valuable experience and like research. And then, once you kind of been in business for like a year or 2 or 3 or, whatever, then you can like really invest in someone who can really help you through the whole process.
Totally. Okay. I want to get into a few like nitty gritty tips when it comes to branding / websites and all that. You help people really gain clarity around their brand. So what are like some of the steps that you take to help people go from confused to really gain clarity about that?
Yes. So I have a questionnaire people go through at the start of our project together. And it's really like a brain dump of your business. Like, what are your values? What is your vision? Like, where are you hoping to go with your business? Like, what do you want people to feel when they interact with you and your business? When they come to your website, what do you want them to do? I mean, there's just so many things. It's just taking inventory of like, how do you want to show up? How do you want people to interact with you? What do you want them to think of your brand? All those different questions helps give me a bird's eye view of, where we're going, what I think would be best for them to be most effective, how to reach their ideal client. So I think taking stock of like asking yourself a lot of questions. What are your values? What is important to you? What's something you want someone to feel when they interact with your website? So I think taking stock of where you're at and asking questions can really help get a lot of clarity. And another thing I have my clients do is create a Pinterest board so I can see what they're drawn to. And a lot of times, even though they're pinning different things, like I have them pin like women's fashion and landscapes and home interior, but I can see threads of like, okay, this is a really elegant vibe they're going for. I can see that they're drawn to this, that kind of thing. So pulling together things that represent your brand will help show you, oh, I'm really drawn to like warm tones, like on the visual side of things. And that helps get clarity too.
Yes. Oh, and I love the point you brought up too. I run into this so much when it comes to mixing branding with your marketing then, right? And mixing branding, especially with like Instagram, for example, right? Because it's the whole mix. It's the whole vibe. Like that's what I call it too, your brand vibe. Because it's not just like your brand identity, like your logos, your colors, your fonts, all that different stuff. It's like how those things work together with your personality, the way you're showing up, and also with like the photos, just the different aspects of your life and business and all the different stuff. And I think that that's really difficult sometimes for people to get, right? And I think often too, it takes someone outside of your brand to help you. Because I feel like when you're in the middle of your brand, you're like, all these different things, I can't see straight, all that different stuff. And so that's why it's so nice to work with a branding person who then can look at your business and see that through line, like we were talking about.
Totally. It's such an overwhelming process when you're doing it. I just feel like as a brand designer myself, I've like, gone through the website process where I've like redesigned my own site, and it's so challenging. It's so challenging. And it's just so much easier. Yes. When you have an outside perspective to kind of bounce ideas off of, is like, is this the right direction? That kind of thing, because there's so many different pieces that go into it. So I do think having an outside perspective is incredibly valuable, especially if it's not something you are naturally good at or love doing. Then it can just be like, nails to a chalkboard. Like you're really not enjoying this. And it's not supposed to be that way. It's supposed to be like an enjoyable process and like a transformation. Like you come out a different person. You show up with so much more confidence on the back end. So it's an evolution of yourself that I think should be an enjoyable process.
Yeah, like, oh man, so many things there, but I'm so glad that you brought up the confidence thing too. Firstly, side note, thank you for giving me permission to be like, even branding experts like need that outside perspective sometimes, right? Because I have totally been like literally before this call, I spent like an hour, lost track of time trying to like hone my brand still. It's like, Kinsey, you still you have your brand, it's fine. But yes, thank you for that, because even people who are good at this need the help, need that outside perspective, that person to bounce ideas off of. And if you're not necessarily a branding person or have a design eye, definitely having someone to help you is awesome. But I also like what you said about the confidence thing too, because, oh man, that is just such a huge part of business. All of these mindset things that we have to deal with and learn how to navigate. And it's really hard sometimes to have confidence in your business in general. And if you're not confident of like the way your brand looks and who your brand is and all the different stuff, it just like feels even more like hard. And so I like how you look
Yes.
at rebranding as it truly helps you to boost your confidence. You have a website that you're excited to send people to.
Totally. I've had a client before where we worked on her site. Before we worked on it, I asked her, I was like, so, how do you feel right now when you are sending people to your current site? She's like, I don't even send people to I don't want them to see my site. I'm like, oh my goodness, that is the point of having an online business, is you send people to your online hub so they can like learn about you and feel your personality and your vibe and connect with you and, hopefully fill out a form to like connect with you. And so it's such a shame when people are like, I don't even want to send people there because I don't even know what's happening. And it could be so much better. And for people who are just starting out, I have to say, like, I am so okay with, a template when you're first starting out, because templates are professionally done. You have to like put in all the information yourself. So there's definitely a DIY component, but it helps you with that confidence piece we were talking about. And it helps you look a bit more professional. It might not be like that custom site, but it will get the job done. And so that's helpful. If you're looking to get started and you don't even know where to get started, looking at templates could be a great option for you.
I love that. And I also, yes, I love creating templates for Feel Good Social for my people who are just starting out. Exactly. And then you reach a level where you're like, okay, it's time to refresh and grow out of this, which is perfectly normal and awesome and something to celebrate for sure. Okay, let's talk about websites. Yes. I love that you brought up mixing of design and visuals with strategy. I feel like that's always the things that are butting head often for people in their business. They're like, well, I want it to look pretty, but then you kind of give up the strategy part of it, or it's just like super strategic, but it's like not looking like great, or at least not standing out maybe from like the rest of the crowd or anything like that. So how do you really find the balance and make strategy and design work together for your clients' websites?
I feel like you cannot have one without the other, honestly. And I mean, having pretty visuals is really nice, but it just gets that attention. And then if the strategy isn't there, people are going to leave and not be interested. So the strategy is what keeps people on the site. They keep people interested, and the visuals like capture that attention. So I think it's so important that you have both of them together. And my whole process is just marries the two together. So there's always like, with every single design decision, there's intention behind it. We're not just like finding a cool color palette. We are, specifically choosing these colors for different reasons because there's psychology behind it and all that. And then when it comes to a website, such an important part of a website is the copy on the site, the words on the site. And so I have done a lot of my own research with copywriting. I am not a copywriter, but I have learned so much because it's so important to have that knowledge when you're designing a site. Like, what are the things you need to say here that will keep people reading? What are some things that can pique interest? How can we make this more easy to look at, easy to navigate? So much of it is that strategy piece. And so much of it is that copywriting piece. Like, I think copy is such an important part of a website. And so with my clients, I do offer like copy polishing, which is where I just go in and kind of zhuzh up something that needs to be, if I have an idea, I'm like, oh, I think like this word should go here. I recommend we like cutting this down. So I really try to offer that throughout our website design process so it can be the most effective as possible.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about copy because exactly, I feel like there are a lot of different opinions out there. A lot of times people are like, start with the copy because then you have the strategy down and then you can figure out the design. And then also at the same time, sometimes there's like little tweaks that need to be made in order to like make the design work and all that different stuff. And I really feel like it's a back and forth, like push and pull.
Yeah, I do think it's really important to have strong copy. So I definitely don't think it should be an afterthought, which some people, when they're working together, they're like, oh yeah, the copy. I'm like, oh no, just because it has to be a really important piece that you really spend a lot of like time and thought, or you hire it out, which would be awesome too. And so it, definitely deserves its own seat at the table, I guess. It's a really important piece. And I think when I just want to throw this in there, like, when people are looking to have a really fun, brand, it's like, I want to be taken seriously. Like, I want to have a really professional online presence. You can add so much personality into your copy that where design will take you there too. But I just feel like copy can be a little bit like underrated. It's like, don't forget about the copy because it can add so much personality.
For sure. The copy is so, so important. And I've kind of run into this with my branding for sure, in a way where it's like my own colors are very vibrant and bright, like jazz hands, in colors. And I love it. And at the same time, I use kind of a traditional-ish font, and I mostly use with what I'm going for now on my website right now, there's lots of colorful fonts and stuff, but I'm going to start using mostly black color for my font color. I don't know, because I feel like I don't need it to be overdone in a way, you know what I mean? Like the copy itself is usually fun enough and like pairs with different colors or photos throughout the designs that the words themselves can be black because the words themselves popping up. I don't know why I brought that up, but does that make sense?
No, that totally makes sense. And I do have to say that is a design tip that really elevates your brand to kind of look more mature and like polished. And I feel like, not that an amateur brand has colorful copy. I'm not saying that, but when you do use all black in your copy, it really helps like elevate the design immediately. So I like to use sometimes if I have like a really colorful site I'm working on, like doing certain words that are like pops of color, like a pop of magenta, like highlighting this word or something like that. And but I do think having all black copy is kind of like a pro move, I guess.
Oh, I love that. I'm over here like flipping my hair, guys. RuthAnn is just boosting me up. Okay, what were you going to say?
I just feel like the tendency is more so much of the time.
Oh, yeah.
So much of the time. It's like, oh, I have this. And like since I have 7 colors in my color palette, I should use every single one on this. And that's I do like really elevated designs and stuff. And so I think the practice for me and other designers is like restraint, because that really helps like narrow in and like focus in what you're trying to highlight. So you're not highlighting all the things. You really want it to be, again, going back to that strategy piece, we want it to be professional, sophisticated, and I think restraint is a huge key in that.
Oh, that's so hard, isn't it?
It really is.
You just want to put everything in there and all these different cool stuff and all the different stuff. I'm laughing too because a different client of mine who I love, we actually had a conversation yesterday because I've had a few garden branding clients and I created all these really cute like vegetable icons for them.
Oh, I love that.
All the vegetables, right? Like I've learned so much about vegetables that I never knew before. So they need all the different vegetable icons because what if I need to use this for something or what, and then Lindsay messaged me yesterday. She like created this little yard sign to put in one of her clients' gardens. And she's like, what do you think of this? And then like literally 1 minute later, she sent me a second one. And the first one had like all the like garden icons on it. And then she sent me the second one and it had like maybe one. And she's like, the second one is better, isn't it? It's like, yeah.
Maybe a little bit.
I want to use all of them. I was like, no, I know, but like, it's okay. You will eventually. You'll be able to go through all of them eventually. So yes. I was like laughing about that.
And if you have a really colorful brand, you can use the colors in a different way as well. Like if you come out with a course or if you come out with a challenge, like using some of your other colors in your palette, to, like experiment and play with and make it like really fun. Like you can definitely do that too, but maybe not like focusing on all of them because that's like the opposite of focus. So, not using all of them, but really kind of like dialing into like, 1 to 2 or like 3 like primary colors.
Yeah.
It's hard though.
It's so hard. I know. Literally my color palette is like 6 bright colors. I'm like trying to like get rid of them, but I'm like, but this one is so cool. But yes, I love that. Less is more when it comes to elevated branding, guys. And I love how we've kind of naturally gotten into this conversation. Do you have any more tips for adding personality to your website and making it fun and pretty and also strategic, with your design aspects of it, I guess?
Well, my first thought was images. I just feel like great photos. You cannot go wrong with great photos on your website. So not that that's like a design aspect, but I think the images are so important in having really professional images. And even like, I recommend like stock photos. If you're doing like a background and you want like an overlay and then text in front of it, using a stock image for that is like perfectly okay. I think, having custom photos is the best, but if you don't have that, I think stock images is where it's at, because they're professionally done. They're made for websites for the most part. And they're just, top level. And then as far as like design, I think, layout is a huge one, like how to add in personality. Right now, like a really big trend for websites is like really big, bold, strong headlines, and then like smaller text. Definitely also like less copy is kind of a trend as well. So websites used to be paragraphs and paragraphs, and I still see that sometimes, and that's fine. But the trend is going to less is more, especially because people's attention span is like shorter and shorter. And so, you want that big like call to action or that big headline that entices people. Then they can like read a paragraph, and then it's like broken up into different sections. And so, yeah, design wise, I would say, layout, images, and then icons. You mentioned that. I think icons are a super fun way to get creative and playful with your colors and your branding. So that's a great thing too. And then like, I like putting their logo that we design like throughout their site in different formats. So it could be like a circle logo somewhere, and then like their icon image in a different area. So that's a fun way to use their brand as well throughout their site.
Ooh, yes, I love this. And guys, too, all of these tips that she's sharing can also be applied to social media content designs too. Just want to throw that out there because it's the same stuff, right? It's like I always think, okay, create something, design something, and then take a step back, look at it, and be like, if I was like looking at this, not knowing who you are or what you do, how would my eye move down the page, right? Like the big bold headline first, and then there's a little paragraph copy, and then there's a subtitle because you might be losing my attention at that point. And then it goes into just a small paragraph again. I always like to think about the journey the eye takes too. And that can totally be applied to like websites or social media stuff. But I love those tips so much. And I think that the photography is something that's just like, that's one of those things that's hard for people to nail down a lot of times when it comes to first starting out in their brand as well. Or they're like, I don't need it and all that different stuff. But that comes back to the confidence thing, right? When you can take like good pictures that you feel good about, that you want to show your face in, right? That allows you to show up more confidently in your business. And so adding those to your website, it's a great idea too.
And that's a great connection piece as well. Like if you have a really great headshot where you're comfortably looking into the camera, you just feel confident. And then the people who are, on the other side of the screen, they're like, oh, I feel like I connect with this person. I feel like I can trust her to help me with my consulting or, whatever it may be. So I think having that can help you connect, show your personality, and be like a way to engage people more.
Yes. It's the whole vibe, how everything comes together and whatnot. I have truly loved this conversation. I could probably just geek out with you about this stuff forever. But I do want to ask, do you have any other things that you want to share?
Back to what we were talking about a little bit ago with marketing. So many people think like, oh, when I get a great website, then people are just going to flock to it and sign up. And that was one of the mistakes I made when I first started my business was, oh, once my site is up, then I don't have to like market anymore because my site's up. And so people will just find it and hire me. And that's, yes, people might find it and hire you, but you still have to do that marketing piece and showing up. And that's why I love your podcast is like feeling good showing up is so important, because if you don't feel good, then people are going to like feel that energy and like maybe not be as enticed to, reach out or something. But wherever you're showing up, if you're feeling really good about it and you're excited, people get that energy too. So I think having a place where you really enjoy showing up, marketing your business, feeling confident, it all kind of goes hand in hand, like we've been talking about.
Yes, I also thank you for bringing it back to marketing, because one, I always forget that. I'm always like at the end of the podcast, I'm like, wait, I guess I should ask you. But also, I wanted to ask you about marketing earlier, and I totally slipped my mind because we got onto the design train and stuff. But
No,
yes, I love that. It's about the whole vibe. It's about the whole big picture. And it's not only creating a brand that attracts your ideal customers, but it's also creating a brand that feels good to you, like you said, and a marketing plan and all that different stuff that allows you to show up in your business with confidence, because that totally just spreads across everything. And I do think that it's all related. It's what I said about the website earlier. I always tell people, I'm like, if you really spend time working on your website and laying it out strategically and feeling confident in it, that's totally stuff that you can then take, like the design aspects or some of the copy and messaging and all the different stuff, and turn into social media posts and content and all that different stuff. Do you find that marketing yourself as a rebrander, do you feel like that's a little bit different than how other people market themselves online? How do you go about finding your clients most often?
Yes. So I have found, and this goes back to the showing up piece, like whatever you're feeling good about doing, that's what you should be doing. And I love one-on-one coffee chats. Like, this is a very slow relationship building way of marketing, but that's how I enjoy it most. And so I am still trying to do that with my little baby upstairs and my little kids and stuff. So I'm trying to still make that a priority, because that is how I love connecting with people. Because you never know who someone, my coach said this one time, she's like, every single call you get on helps you get closer to your goals, because you never know who that person could like refer you to, or they could introduce you to someone, or like an opportunity can happen. And so for me, I love marketing my business in that way. Like, I love doing, anytime I can get on video with someone, that it's like my favorite. Like, I just love connecting with people that way. Definitely a slower way to go, but that's the way I enjoy. So I do like networking events, roundtables. I meet people there. Whenever I'm in like a mastermind, my mastermind sisters, I like connect with them that way. And so it's just, the more people I can connect with and say like, if you or anyone is interested in rebranding, I would love to chat with them, see if, I could help them with where they're at in their journey. Yeah. So for me, I really love the relationship building aspect of marketing. And that's how a lot of my clients come through referrals. So that is kind of like my number one way. And people have a lot of opinions about that. Like, oh, that shouldn't be your number one way, because then you're not being the proactive one in that situation. You're kind of like waiting for them to come to you. But I mean, it's working so far. So I guess I just love doing that. Yeah. One-on-one relationship building. And so I'm like in the Instagram DMs a lot. I'm not like on stories all the time, but I'm in the DMs a lot, chatting with people, coffee chats and stuff. So, especially because my service is a more high-end service, like it's a more high-end offer. So it's just not something that people will come through the doors through social media. I mean, maybe, absolutely, that's an option. But yeah, a lot of it for me is relationship building.
I think your way is like one of the best ways for most service providers to focus on. And also when you are just starting out in business, I'm sorry, but if you're just starting out in business and you don't have a lot of contacts, you don't have a big community, you don't have a network or anything like that quite yet, and then you're just posting on social media every day and you're like, it's not working, nothing's happening. And, or maybe you are gaining a little bit of traction and getting some followers or like a bigger following, but those followers aren't necessarily turning into paying clients yet, right? So I always like to weigh what is the most ROI for like the efforts that I'm putting out there when it comes to my business, when it comes to other people's businesses that I'm like giving them advice for. What should you be putting your time and energy into that is going to get you the most results at the current moment in your business, right? So I think that that's a great way to honestly like make more sales and all that stuff. And it's like you said, it all comes back to you. And oh man, I love the way that you said that too. This guy's listen to this. Okay. You're networking with people, you're having coffee chats, you're chatting with anyone about your business, whether it be in person or on Instagram in the DMs or anything like that. But you say, yeah, I'm a rebrand designer. If you or anyone you know would be interested in this, I'd love for you to recommend me. Like that is such a low-key way to sell and like to encourage people to recommend you, and also plant a little seed in someone's brain being like, oh yeah, maybe I do need RuthAnn to help me, you know?
And I will say my coach helped me so much with this, because I feel like in the beginning, I was having all these coffee chats with people and nothing was happening. Like I had a lot of like friends online, and like we just now said, like nothing was happening. I was like, okay, what is the problem? Like, cause I'm meeting all these people and they know what I do. And she was like, are you being bold and like asking them if they are interested? Cause you never know if someone is or not. And so just don't be afraid to have those conversations and to like open up the door. It's something I've learned along the way, but it's like, when you have a call with someone and they mention it, like, oh, I've been meaning to do my website. It's been on my plate forever. I've been wanting to do this. And then we go along with the conversation. I'll reach out to them again and say like, hey, I remember you saying this in our last chat. I would love to talk with you about this if you're interested. If not, that's totally cool too. But I remember you said that and wanted to offer my services if you needed help. And most of the time they get on a call and we talk about it. So it's like you said, like it's a low pressure. This is not like hard sales tactics, but this helps me feel really good about like how I'm selling. Like I feel great about it. So, I think it helps me show up more and to invite people into that, conversation.
Yes. I love it. I get so excited about this. And oh man, that is a lesson that I have learned that I took a lot of practice to get me used to. It took me probably a full year before I was really confident enough and like it did not feel comfortable at first, for sure. Yeah. It took practice to like get comfortable putting yourself out there like that, but you have to do it because like that's how you make suggestions to people, and it's usually helpful for them. And I just want to put this out there. I've been shut down before when it comes to like just offering things like that, and that's okay too. It doesn't mean it's cringy or anything like that. It means that you're confident in what you do and you're trying to help people and you're making like an easygoing, low pressure offer. That's my favorite way to sell too. And I think that at least for me, like whenever I think about selling in like a cringy way, it's like putting yourself out there, being forceful. You're never going to try to force a sale on someone who doesn't want it or hasn't shown you that they might be interested in it or who wouldn't benefit from it, right? So put it out there in an easygoing way and you're not going to force them to buy from you,
Yes. Oh, I can go into this topic, which we don't have to, but I remember my coach was like, when you're in a sales call, you are helping them get to the best decision for them. Like, this is not you forcing anything on anyone. Like, they are an empowered woman. They can make their own decisions. And so, when you're asking them questions about like, why haven't you invested yet? Or like, what's stopping you from investing now? Like, those are kind of scary waters to tread sometimes if you're like not comfortable with like sales conversations. But it's like, exactly what you said. Like, I'm not forcing anyone. I'm just asking some questions and then we'll see what happens. So it's a relaxed way to go about it.
I love that. Yeah. I lately have definitely been making the shift. And I do think that, Instagram, social media, YouTube, podcasts, although I love me some podcasts, let's be honest. I think that this is like most low key content, like way to like show up and stuff. I love it. But I mean, okay, like Instagram, some businesses, maybe like Instagram is their strategy. Maybe they do make the most sales from Instagram and stuff. But I like to think of Instagram and social media as like a part of the ecosystem that is all working together to like help me see success in my business, right? So Instagram is not my place that I am like expecting to make sales on the front end. It is my place where I encourage people to come connect with me, start conversations there, show them my personality, show them a little behind the scenes, show them what I can do, right? Like show them my skills, and in the whole ecosystem of things that will eventually like lead to recommendations, which are just as important as the actual sales often, or just as quality and like valuable, or, like a sale and stuff. And so stop putting so much pressure on Instagram to be your sales machine, right? It's like a part of the ecosystem of your sales.
And I am right there with you. I do never look for sales from Instagram. First of all, they've never given me sales. But second of all, I don't want to put that pressure on it because I like Instagram personally. Like, I like hanging out there. I love watching these funny reels. I've been watching all these parenting reels and they're hilarious. So I love it, like, being on it, especially in the DMs chatting with people. But when you put that pressure on it of like, I need to make a sale, like it just then it can take the joy out of it. And so for me, like you said, it's building relationships, it's showing up, it's sharing my expertise, doing live sometimes with friends chatting just like this. And I love it for that reason. And so that's what I use it for. And I think it helps take the pressure off too.
Oh, I love it so much. Okay, I gotta stop this conversation because we could keep going. But I'm glad to where it went as well. Like I could geek out with you about this stuff all day too. So anyway, we'll stop it here. But thank you for coming on the show, RuthAnn. This was like such a great conversation. Can you please share with everyone where they can find you, connect with you, and share about your fun little feel-good social offer? Because I'm so excited about that.
Yes. Well, thank you so much for having me. This has been such a fun conversation. You can find me on Instagram, like we've been talking about, at r_artspace. So that's my business is r_artspace. My website is r_artspace.com. And yes, my little giveaway is I offer brand and website assessments to people. It's like a Loom video where I go through your website, your homepage, about page, and services, and really give like a thorough review of like, this is where you can improve this. This is, I recommend this, like put a call to action here. So really like practical tips, and people can, take those tips and like run with it, or, choose to have me help them in the future. It's totally like a no pressure thing, but it's just offering, it's like that bird's eye view of like, this is what I think could really help you. And I would love to offer that to 3 people. So this is normally a paid offer, but I would love to give it away to your audience. The first 3 people who DM me on Instagram, I would love to offer this to them. So just DM me assessment, and I would love to help you with that.
Oh, okay, guys. The first 3 people DM RuthAnn assessment, and you'll get a free brand and website assessment.
Yeah.
You better DM her before I do. Okay, guys? Because no, I'm just kidding. But yeah, okay, definitely go hit her up for that, because that is amazing. Like, that's such a great offer, and for free too. Oh, wow! Thank you so much for sharing that. Thank you for sharing all your knowledge and tips today. And I'll talk to you later. Thank you, RuthAnn.
Kinsey, thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
How wonderful was RuthAnn? You guys, it was so much fun to chat with her. And I'll be honest, it was my first interview in a hot minute after taking a little bit of time off from the podcast. So she was such a trooper. She had so many awesome things to share with us, and I know you enjoyed it. So make sure you go connect with her over on Instagram. She is at r_artspace. 3 people can snag that awesome offer that she is giving away. So definitely go message her about that. And connect with me too if we haven't yet. I'm at Feel Good Social. Send me a message. Let me know that you came from the podcast, and I will absolutely give you a follow back and keep cheering you on over there. All right. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your week, and I will catch you next time I catch you. Thanks so much for listening, my friend. For show notes and a whole lot of other awesome freebies, visit feelgoodsocial.com. Simply go to feelgoodsocial.com for all the goods.